So, just as I discussed, we would do a brief introduction to various leg entanglements, of the basic leg entanglements of the sport, which are your vehicle to use your weapons, all right, your submission holds. It's useful for us to discuss how to actually use these submission holds to break the opponent, and we'll start in a basic way. Often I find that trying to give a student all of the details, all of the finishing details in a particular category, is detrimental. It isn't as helpful as you think it would be. You have to do it in a progressive way. You start with certain details and then you work your way up to more advanced details. So we're going to start with very basic breaking mechanics, and we're going to talk about the toe hold because I believe it's one of the more familiar leg locks, especially because for years many people weren't allowed to do heel hooks. They were only allowed to do toe holds, knee bars, and Achilles locks. The toe hold is a close cousin of the outside heel hook, and we'll talk about that when we get into the outside heel hook. We'll just drill this movement from an Arimi Ashigarami or an outside. Both are going to be acceptable in this instant. Again, keeping in mind that when we do this practically, this wouldn't necessarily be the way that I would have you guys going for a toe hold. This is more just to discuss how to break somebody in the position, not so much the way that I would go to get there, okay, or the vehicle that I would use to get to this position, okay? So, first things first, I'm going to get some exposure here, and I'm going to turn my training partner's foot. From this position, I'm going to grasp my training partner's foot like so, at the end of the lever to the best of my ability, all right, with my hand, okay? My secondary hand is going to reach underneath my training partner's shin bones like so, okay, and lock up on my own wrist, okay? So we have a little bit of a Kimura feel to this type of submission, okay? My arm reaching underneath, my other hand grabbing. Now, you can do this in a number of different ways and get mixed results, okay? Based on the description that I just gave you, I could reach way up here on my training partner's calf muscle and I can grab my own wrist. I could reach way down low. There's a ton of different configurations that I could go for that would follow the words that I just told you, okay? So let's be a little bit more specific. I'm going to take this finger right here, the middle one, and I'm going to line it up with my training partner's pinky toe. Okay, so that middle finger is just going to cover my training partner's pinky knuckle, okay, in case you can't see that, right there, okay? And that's going to be a pretty good start as far as the end of the lever. If you go much further than that, you start to lose your training partner's toes, okay? So there's a kind of an end point here of diminishing returns as far as reaching the end of the lever when it comes to grabbing your training partner's foot, okay? As far as the secondary hand is concerned, when I reach this arm through, we kind of want to be as low on my training partner's ankle as possible. Why? Okay, well now we're going to start to get into a discussion about breaking in general. We want to create a situation where the fulcrum, that's what we're about to place in here, the thing that I'm going to break my training partner's ankle over, the fulcrum that's going to rest underneath. Okay, we want that fulcrum to be at the breaking point. Okay, so in theory, if I were to leave the breaking point up here, so if I'm putting the fulcrum here underneath my training partner's shin bones, in theory, I'd be trying to break my training partner's shin in half. Okay, and I don't know if you guys have seen too much competition footage. It's not usually what happens with a toe hold. Usually what we're looking to do is we're looking to do damage to our training partner's ankle, probably at the ligaments more than anything else. Okay, so I want that fulcrum to be down here by my training partner's ankle. When it's up here by the shin, I'm putting a bunch of force into the back of my training partner's calf muscle. It might hurt, okay, but it's not really doing as much damage to the ligaments of the ankle as it could be. So what we're going to start to do is we're going to take this fulcrum and we're going to slide it down, all right, towards the edge of my training partner's ankle, like so. Okay, now as I break the foot, as I twist my training partner's foot over the fulcrum, that's exactly where the breaking point is, right at my training partner's ankle. All right, and we can start to tear through these ligaments on the outside like so. What you'll start to see is as I turn my training partner's foot, all right, you'll start to see these ligaments start to get very tense, okay, and that's what we'd be tearing through right here. So my elbow comes down, almost matching my training partner's heel, and my hand grasps my training partner's toes like so, okay? Now from this position, I have two directions of force that I want to work with. It's good to push someone's toes down. So I'm just going to show you an example of this. It's just easier to do when I have my training partner facing this direction. Yes, it's good to push somebody's toes down, but that alone on a game opponent typically won't do you too much justice. You can, in fact, push someone's toes almost completely to their butt with almost no effect. if you don't also do something with the other arm. In almost every break that we're going to have in this sport, you want two directions of force. So in addition to the push and the folding that I'm going to be doing with this hand, I'm also going to be pulling towards myself with this elbow. So as I push, I pull and lift this elbow off the ground, and we can get good results. Probably better results, and we'll talk about why later, when our legs are wrapped around the outside of our opponent's hip, all right, so we can control our training partner's hip, okay? But as far as the actual breaking mechanics of this toe hold are concerned, okay, with our hand position, we're talking about controlling the end of the lever, okay, via the middle finger, okay, covering my training partner's pinky knuckle, all right, then my elbow matching up and forearm bones matching up underneath my training partner's ankle, where I actually want to break him, a folding of the foot over that fulcrum while lifting and elevating that fulcrum, okay? So the fulcrum that's underneath, I lift it as I press the toes over it to get good results for the break, okay? In a good toe hold, you're probably going to get pressure not just in the ankle, but also in the knee. Now, everything that I've done just thus far is pretty much just focused on my training partner's ankle. If I want to get his knee involved, that means I have to apply force with my ashigarami into my training partner's knee. So the knee is getting twisted in this direction via the ankle, and my hips are going to press the opposite direction so that we can now get pressure on the outside ligaments of my training partner's knee. Okay? And you can do that with a closed wedge or an open wedge, like so. Okay? So it's a pretty good introduction right there to the breaking mechanics of a toe hold, and now we'll move into the outside heel.